I felt my stomach drop straight through the floor when Marcus Reed's words hit me like a sledgehammer. Time slowed down as I watched his mouth form that cocky smirk I'd grown to hate over the past 6 months. "We're restructuring commissions, Scott. Yours is now 1% instead of 10%. The bile rose in my throat. That $2.8 million manufacturing deal I'd just closed after 8 months of grinding work would now earn me $28,000 instead of $280,000. The difference wasn't just money, it was my future. I'd already mentally allocated that commission, paying off the second mortgage I took for Ryan's college tuition, finally replacing my 15-year-old pickup, maybe even taking a real vacation for the first time in a decade. My name is Scott Whitman, I'm 54 years old, and I've been busting my tail in B2B sales for 22 years. What I'm about to tell you is exactly what happens when corporate America decides experience doesn't matter anymore. I'd been at Summit Solutions for nearly 8 years. 8 years of 6 a.m. coffee calls with clients on the West Coast. 8 years of missing Ryan's baseball games and family barbecues to close deals. 8 years of proving that old-school relationship building still works in this digital age where everyone thinks a LinkedIn message counts as networking. Summit sold industrial manufacturing equipment to major corporations, the kind of deals that take months to develop, sometimes over a year to close, the kind where a standard 10% commission could set you up nice for retirement planning. I joined Summit after my previous company got acquired and the new owners cleaned house of anyone over 45. Corporate restructuring, they called it. Age discrimination, I called it. At Summit, I worked my way up from handling small regional accounts to becoming their top enterprise closer. I didn't just memorize product specs, I understood manufacturing processes that most of these younger reps couldn't even pronounce. I built real relationships with plant managers and procurement directors instead of carpet bombing them with emails and PowerPoint decks. When Apex Manufacturing showed up on our radar, everyone in the office said they were impossible. They were modernizing their entire production line with AI-integrated systems, and their CEO, Michelle Torres, was known for being brilliant but tough as nails. Apex had burned through sales teams from every major competitor in our space. "Don't waste your time, Scott," Marcus had told me. "Focus on the accounts we can actually close." But I saw something everyone else missed. Their real problem wasn't the technology. It was integration with their existing systems that had been running for 20 years. While other sales teams pitched them on efficiency gains and cost savings, I spent weeks learning about their actual challenges. Legacy equipment compatibility, worker retraining programs, union concerns about job displacement. For 3 months, I practically lived and breathed Apex Manufacturing. I talked to their floor supervisors, their maintenance crews, even grabbed beers with their shift leaders. I learned about their real frustrations, not the corporate buzzword problems, but the daily headaches that kept production managers awake at night. When I finally got my meeting with Michelle Torres, I didn't pitch products. I presented solutions to problems she hadn't even mentioned in the RFP. I watched her expression shift from polite skepticism to genuine interest as I walked through integration timelines that actually made sense. "You actually understand manufacturing," she said, leaning forward across the conference table. "Most sales guys talk like we're going to shut down production for 6 months while they install their magic boxes." It took another 5 months of meetings, demonstrations, and contract negotiations. I worked 70-hour weeks, developed insomnia, but I closed it. Apex signed a 5-year contract worth $2.8 million, the largest deal in Summit's 15-year history. The morning after the contract was signed, I walked into the office feeling like I owned the world. People who'd barely nodded at me in the hallway were suddenly treating me like their best friend. The CFO sent a company-wide email with my name in bold letters. My commission, my retirement-securing, debt-erasing $280,000, would be paid when Apex's first payment cleared in about 30 days. That was yesterday. Today, Marcus called me into his office. He was sitting behind his glass desk in his perfectly pressed shirt, the kind that costs more than most people make in a week. At 35, Marcus looked like he'd stepped out of a business magazine, all jawline and ambition, with eyes that never quite met yours when he was about to screw you over. "Scott, fantastic work with Apex," he said, his voice dripping with fake sincerity. "Truly exceptional. The board is beyond impressed." I nodded, waiting for the inevitable but. With Marcus, there was always a but. "As you know, we're constantly evaluating our compensation structures to stay competitive." He shuffled some papers without looking at me. For deals exceeding $2.5 million, we're implementing a new tiered commission structure. That's when he dropped the bomb. Yours is now 1% instead of 10%. The room seemed to tilt sideways. That wasn't in my contract, I managed to say. It's a company-wide policy change, effective immediately. He finally looked up, that practiced smile not reaching his eyes. Think about it. $28,000 is still a substantial bonus. Most people would be thrilled with that kind of payout. I sat there perfectly still. 22 years of professional conditioning kept me from reaching across that desk and showing him what a factory worker's son from Detroit thought about his policy change. Instead, I heard myself ask, was this decision made before I closed Apex? Marcus cleared his throat. The leadership team has been discussing it for some time. The timing is unfortunate. Unfortunate, like he'd accidentally stepped on my shoe instead of stealing $250,000 from me. Congratulations again on landing Apex, he said, dismissing me with a wave. We're lucky to have someone with your experience on the team. The way he said experience made it sound like a disease. I stood up, walked out without a word, and closed his office door a little harder than necessary. My footsteps echoed in the hallway as I passed coworkers who had no idea I was burning inside. I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and stared at the screen without seeing anything. They thought I'd just take it because that's what guys like me do, right? Keep our heads down, take the scraps, and be grateful we still have jobs. But here's what Marcus didn't know about this old dog. I'd been planning my exit from Summit for months. Not because I was unhappy. Hell, I'd been their top producer for 3 years running, but because I'd learned something important during my 22 years in sales. The client. Relationship belongs to whoever earns it. Companies think they own the client, but clients follow people they trust. And Michelle Torres trusted me. 3 months earlier, I'd started laying groundwork for my own consulting firm. Nothing that violated my non-compete. Just basic business registration, website setup, business bank account. I called it Pinnacle Industries, specializing in exactly the kind of manufacturing integration that companies like Apex needed. The plan was to launch in about a year after I'd saved enough from this Apex commission to cover startup costs and give myself 18 months of runway. Sitting at my desk with rage burning in my chest, I realized I needed to move up the timeline, way up. I pulled out my phone and texted Michelle. Any chance you're free for coffee tomorrow morning? Need to discuss something important about your implementation timeline. She replied within 10 minutes. 7 a.m. at Riverside Diner. Make it quick. I've got a board call at 8:30. I confirmed, then opened my laptop with purpose. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was calculating. The contract with Apex was signed, but implementation hadn't started. Their first payment wasn't due for 30 days. That gave me a window. I spent that entire night reviewing my employment contract word by word. The non-compete was restrictive but not bulletproof. It prevented me from soliciting Summit clients for 12 months, but there was a key exception for clients who approached me independently or where I had pre-existing professional relationships. I also studied Apex's contract with Summit. The language specified deliverables and timelines, but was vague about which individuals would provide the services. There was no guarantee that I personally would handle their implementation. By 6 a.m., I had a plan. Michelle was already at Riverside Diner when I arrived, scrolling through emails on her phone while nursing black coffee. She looked up when I slid into the booth across from her. This better be good, Scott. I've got fires to put out back at the plant. I took a deep breath. Summit is planning to assign junior staff to your implementation. I'm being moved to a different division. This was technically a lie, but a necessary one. I watched her face harden. That's not what we discussed, she said slowly. You sold me on your personal involvement in this project. I know. That's why I wanted to meet face to face. I slid a business card across the table. I'm leaving Summit today, starting my own firm that specializes in exactly what Apex needs. Michelle picked up the card, studied it. This is highly irregular, Scott. So is bait and switch staffing on a $2.8 million contract. I held her gaze. You signed with Summit because of me, because I understood what Apex actually needs. Do you honestly think anyone else there has that knowledge? She leaned back, considering. What exactly are you proposing? Cancel with Summit. Your contract has a 30-day cancellation clause with prorated penalties. You haven't paid them anything yet. I leaned forward. Hire Pinnacle for 20% less than what you agreed to pay Summit. Same service, better attention, save almost $600,000, and work directly with the person you trusted in the first place. And what do you get out of this? I smiled grimly. I get to build something that's mine instead of making other people rich. And yeah, I get the satisfaction of watching Marcus explain to his board how he lost the biggest client in company history. Michelle was quiet for a long moment, turning the business card in her fingers. You know what I respect about you, Scott? You're as strategic as you are stubborn. She tucked the card into her jacket. Send me a proposal by end of business today. Make it something I can sell to my procurement team. I walked out of that diner with my heart pounding and something I hadn't felt in years. Control over my own future. At 9 a.m., I walked into Summit, sat at my desk, and typed up my resignation letter. 2 sentences. Please accept this as my formal resignation, effective immediately. I will not be requiring a reference. I emailed it to HR, copying Marcus. Then I started drafting the proposal for Apex, my fingers flying across the keyboard with clarity I hadn't experienced in decades. At 11:30 a.m., Marcus appeared at my desk, his face red beneath his perfect haircut. What the hell is this? He demanded, waving his phone with my resignation email. I looked up at him with the kind of smile I reserved for people who thought they were smarter than they actually were. I believe it's self-explanatory. You can't just quit in the middle of onboarding our biggest client. Actually, I can. My contract doesn't require notice. I continued packing my few personal items into a cardboard box. As for Apex, I'm sure whoever you assign will do their best. His eyes narrowed. If you think you can poach Apex, think again. That non-compete is rock solid. I stood up, box in hand. Good. This is about knowing my worth, Marcus. Something Summit apparently struggles with. Non-competes are tough to enforce in this state, I said, stepping around him. But I'm not soliciting any Summit clients. That would be unethical. Marcus followed me toward the exit, his voice rising. You'll regret this, Scott. Nobody walks away from an opportunity like Summit. I stopped at the elevator, turned to face him one last time. That's where you're wrong, Marcus. I'm not walking away from opportunity. I'm walking toward it. The elevator doors opened. As I stepped inside, I saw other employees watching from their cubicles, their expressions ranging from shock to barely hidden admiration. Congratulations on your new policy, I said, echoing his words from yesterday as the doors closed between us. I walked out of Summit headquarters that day carrying nothing but a box of family photos and coffee mugs, my laptop bag, and a fire in my chest that felt dangerously close to hope. By the time I got home, I'd received 4 texts from coworkers asking what happened. People love drama, but the truth, that I'd maintained perfect professional composure while planning my revenge, wasn't exciting enough for office gossip. My apartment became mission control. I pushed my dining table against the wall and turned it into a command center covered with legal pads, my laptop, and enough coffee to fuel a small army. I had about 6 weeks of savings before things got desperate. The proposal for Apex took me 12 straight hours. I outlined a 4-phase implementation plan that would save them money while delivering better results than Summit had promised. My hands were shaking when I hit send at 1:45 a.m. Michelle responded at 6:20 a.m. Impressive work. Board meeting in 2 hours. Your proposal addresses every concern we discussed. Expect contract revisions by noon. I sat on my kitchen floor and laughed until tears came. Not happy tears, not sad tears. Relief tears, the kind that comes when you've been holding your breath so long you forgot what oxygen felt like. By noon, I'd called Jordan Pierce, the best project manager I knew, who'd been doing freelance work while dreaming of something bigger. He said yes before I finished explaining the opportunity. Then came Alex Rivera, a systems integration specialist who'd been undervalued at his corporate job for years. He negotiated to come on as a partner rather than an employee, better for both of us at this stage. By evening, I had the core of a real team, people who were excellent at their jobs, but, like me, had been overlooked and underestimated. What I didn't have yet was any word from Summit. No angry calls, no legal threats, just silence. That changed the next morning. My phone rang at 7:15 a.m. Unknown number, Scott Whitman speaking. Mr. Whitman, this is Jessica Reed, General Counsel for Summit Solutions. Her voice had that practiced attorney tone. Measured, slightly bored, with steel underneath. I'm calling about some concerning developments. My heart rate doubled, but my voice stayed steady. What developments would those be? We understand that Apex Manufacturing is reconsidering their contract with Summit. Given your non-compete agreement, this raises legal concerns. This was expected. I'd prepared for this conversation. I haven't violated my non-compete. I haven't solicited any Summit clients. If Apex is reconsidering their relationship, perhaps you should ask Marcus why. We have documentation of your meeting with Michelle Torres the morning after you learned about the commission restructure. Someone had seen us at the diner. That meeting was at Ms. Torres' request to discuss implementation concerns. As for any business she might do with Pinnacle, that falls under the pre-existing relationship exemption in Section 4.2 of my contract. I knew Ms. Torres professionally before she became a Summit client. This was technically true. I'd met Michelle at a manufacturing conference 2 years before Apex ever contacted Summit. Long pause. I'd done my homework better than they expected. Nevertheless, Jessica continued, Summit is prepared to pursue this matter if necessary. I understand Summit's position, I said calmly. And Summit is certainly free to pursue litigation, just as I'm free to share with the court how my commission was retroactively cut after landing your largest contract ever. I imagine that would make interesting reading in Industry Weekly. Another pause. They were calculating risks versus rewards. Mr. Whitman, perhaps we can resolve this amicably. Would you be open to discussion? And there it was. They weren't scared of the legal battle. They were scared of the publicity nightmare. Tech companies were already under fire for how they treated experienced workers. I'm always open to reasonable discussion, I said. My terms are simple. Summit agrees not to pursue legal action, and I agree not to discuss the circumstances of my departure publicly. And Apex is free to work with whatever vendor they choose. That's not something either of us controls. 3 hours later, a courier delivered a settlement agreement releasing me from my non-compete in exchange for my silence about the commission change. I signed immediately. By the end of the week, Apex had officially terminated with Summit and signed with Pinnacle Industries. The first payment, $560,000 with the 20% discount I'd promised Michelle, hit my business account the following Monday. I thought I'd feel vindicated. Instead, I felt terrified. Now I actually had to deliver. The next 6 months were the hardest of my adult life. We operated out of my apartment until we could afford real office space. I developed stress headaches that kept me up at night. Lost weight I couldn't afford to lose. Forgot my own birthday because I was troubleshooting system integrations at 2 a.m. But slowly, impossibly, it started working. Apex's implementation went smoother than anyone expected. Michelle, never one for easy praise, told me our team accomplished in 4 months what would have taken Summit 8. Word travels fast in manufacturing circles. When you deliver for a company like Apex, other companies notice. 5 months after leaving Summit, we landed our second client. 6 months later, our third and fourth. By the 8-month mark, we had 6 clients, 12 employees, and a real office with a view of the river. I finally started sleeping more than 5 hours a night. I hadn't heard anything about Marcus or Summit until Ashley Coleman, my former cubicle neighbor, asked me to meet for drinks. You probably haven't heard, Ashley said after we'd ordered. Marcus got fired last week. I nearly choked on my beer. What happened? Ashley leaned forward, clearly enjoying the gossip. After you left with Apex, he promised the board he'd replace that revenue within 6 months. Kept talking about his pipeline, his digital strategies. She shook her head. Meanwhile, 2 more enterprise clients didn't renew. Word is they're down almost $4 million in annual revenue. I sat back, processing this. How's morale? Terrible. They cut everyone's commission structure, not just yours. 3 more senior reps have quit. She grinned. Actually, I'm thinking about joining Pinnacle if you're hiring. I found myself laughing. Real, deep belly laughs that felt foreign after months of stress. The offer definitely stands. As we clinked glasses, my phone buzzed. Text from unknown number. Scott, it's Marcus. I know we didn't part on the best terms, but I've started my own consulting firm. Maybe we could discuss some partnership opportunities. Let's put the past behind us. I showed Ashley the message. Her eyes went wide. Are you going to respond? I thought about it for a moment. About all the clever, cutting responses I'd imagined over the past months. About the satisfaction I'd expected to feel at his downfall. But looking at his text, I felt nothing. Not anger, not vindication. Just emptiness, like looking at an old scar that doesn't hurt anymore. I put my phone away without responding. Not worth my time. 1 year to the day after I walked out of Summit, Pinnacle Industries moved into our permanent offices, the entire 8th floor of a downtown building with conference rooms that didn't double as storage closets. We had 18 employees, 11 clients, and had just signed our first $3 million contract. That evening, after everyone had gone home, I sat in my office looking out at the city lights. My phone pinged with a text from Michelle. Heard about the Patterson Industries deal. Impressive growth. You should be proud. I wrote back, learning from the best. She responded with a simple thumbs up that, coming from Michelle Torres, felt like a standing ovation. I leaned back in my chair, a chair I'd picked out for my own company, and let myself feel it all. The fear, the exhaustion, the wild, improbable success of it. What happened at Summit wasn't really about the money. It was about being valued, recognized for what I'd built, rather than having it stolen from me. In trying to save a few $100,000, they'd lost millions and created their biggest competitor. The irony wasn't lost on me. Marcus's attempt to push me aside had accidentally set me free. 6 months later, my son Ryan graduated from college debt-free. He'd been working part-time with our digital marketing while finishing his degree, and seeing him walk across that stage knowing I'd been able to pay for his education without him drowning in loans, that was worth more than any commission. "Dad," he said at dinner after graduation, "I've been thinking about what you did. Starting over at 54, building something from nothing. That takes guts." I looked at him across the table, this kid who'd grown into a man while I was grinding away in corporate cubicles. "You know what I learned, Ryan? Age isn't about what you can't do anymore. It's about what you know how to do better." He nodded thoughtfully. "Is that why you hired so many people over 45? I hadn't really thought about it, but looking at our team, he was right. Jordan Pierce, 52. Alex Rivera, 49. Ashley Coleman, 46. Even our newest hire, a brilliant operations manager named Carol Santos, was 51. "Experience recognizes experience," I said. "When you've been through enough cycles, enough ups and downs, you develop judgment that can't be taught in MBA programs." The young guys at my marketing internship keep talking about disruption and moving fast and breaking things, Ryan said. "But watching you work, I realize there's value in moving thoughtfully and fixing things." That conversation stuck with me. A few weeks later, I was invited to speak at a regional manufacturing conference. The topic was building client relationships in a digital age, but I ended up talking about something else entirely. How many of you have been told you're old school? I asked the audience of mostly 45-plus sales professionals. About half the hands went up. "Good," I said, "because old school means you remember when a handshake meant something. Old school means you understand that technology is a tool, not a relationship. Old school means you know the difference between a client and a customer." The applause was thunderous. After my talk, 3 people offered me consulting contracts on the spot. But the moment that really hit me came 6 months later. I was at another industry conference when a young sales rep, couldn't have been more than 28, approached me during the cocktail hour. "Mr. Whitman, I'm Jake Patterson from Meridian Solutions. I've been following your company's success story." He looked nervous but determined. "I wanted to ask, are you hiring? I know I don't have a lot of experience, but I'm willing to learn." I studied him for a moment. Earnest kid, reminded me of myself 25 years ago. "What makes you think you'd fit at Pinnacle?" "Honestly, because I'm tired of companies that think relationships don't matter. I want to work somewhere that values doing things right over doing things fast." I handed him my card. "Call my office Monday. Ask for Ashley Coleman. She handles recruiting." As he walked away, practically beaming, I realized something had shifted. I wasn't just proving that experience mattered anymore. I was building a place where it could flourish alongside fresh energy and new ideas. 2 years after walking out of Summit, Pinnacle hit $8 million in annual revenue. We'd grown to 28 employees across 3 offices, but the number I was most proud of wasn't revenue, it was retention. In an industry where people job hop every 18 months, our average tenure was 3.2 years and climbing. Looking back now, I sometimes think about what would have happened if Marcus had just honored that original commission. I'd probably still be at Summit, grinding away in someone else's vision, counting down to retirement. Instead, he forced me to bet on myself at an age when most people are playing it safe. And in trying to diminish what I'd built, he accidentally taught me the most valuable lesson of my career. Your worth isn't determined by what someone else is willing to pay you. It's determined by what you're willing to build. That lesson is worth more than any commission. If you're reading this and you've ever been told you're too experienced, too old school, too expensive, remember that experience isn't a liability. It's your competitive advantage. The question isn't whether you can start over at 45, 50, or 55. The question is, what are you waiting for? Because the best revenge isn't just success. It's creating success on your own terms and showing everyone who underestimated you that wisdom beats youth. Relationships trump technology, and experience isn't something you lose with age. It's something you finally learn how to use. So remember this. They didn't just steal my commission that day. They accidentally gave me something far more valuable, the kick in the pants I needed to stop building someone else's dream and start building my own legacy.